It's not attractive. Nobody wants to be around it, right? It was a great repellent.
That's right.
But the more now, as an adult, that I could say I appreciate what my body has done for me. I've produced 4 babies.
Wow.
Thank you, body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just walked all over these places and these countries, and thank you, body, for taking me there. I used to be so hard on myself. I used to compare myself to other people. And one of the things I'm talking about at the conference is comparison is the thief of joy. That's Theodore Roosevelt said that. It's the thief of joy. When we sit there and compare our lives or compare ourselves, our physical, our financial, our emotional, our relational, our social status to anybody else, it will always cause you to feel less.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're right.
And I see so many people out there living less life than they actually would if they stopped comparing.
Wow.
Absolutely. So that's what I would say. Is I would just say, you know what? Relax. You have a lot to be thankful for.
Right.
And begin focusing on that, and you'll find that even though nothing may change, everything has changed.
Wow. So you, wow.
Let it
So
sink in, Ruth. Let it sink in.
I mean, wow, I don't even know what to say next. Let's talk about this She Leads.
Okay.
What is that? Why did you write that?
I'm so glad you asked that question.
I'm so excited. I mean, I cried when I read that, but why did you, tell me.
So, a little bit about this book was I was taking a leadership class, and this was a book, it was based on a book written by a very well-known, I'm not going to name him, author, who is very much the top name in writing about leadership. And I was reading the book, and it was all he, him, his, and I'm like, and this was the 10th anniversary edition. You would think in 10 years
It's the change.
that they could have evolved at least into gender-neutral pronouns. I mean, like, where is the brain? And I'm speaking, if you're listening out there, leadership writer, I'm talking to you. It inspired me to write this book. I wrote this book in a month.
Wow.
Because it came from such a fierce place inside of me of going, I am the daughter of Joan Hunter. I'm the granddaughter of Frances Hunter. I've got 3 sisters who are all very, very powerful. I've got 3 daughters. And how am I supposed to say that a leadership book having all masculine pronouns is something that I want them to read?
Right.
I'm sorry, but no. I love male leadership. I love female leadership. To me, they are not exclusive.
Right.
We are both called to lead.
Right.
And we are both called to serve in the same way. So this book, She Leads, I just was like, it's got to be pink, it's got to be a girl, and we need to know about what women have done and are doing. And so my heart with this was really, I asked a lot of my friends, my female friends, I asked my family, I was like, tell me 5 female leaders.
Right.
And they were stumped. You know, they couldn't name them. And, you know, honestly, I probably couldn't name them either.
Right.
And I was like, it's not right that we don't know. It's not right. And so I wrote this book with the intention of, number 1, helping women gain some footing in their own leadership.
That's true.
Number 2, awareness. I think knowing what other people have done, how they've turned their ordinary lives into extraordinary lives, you know, that is empowering. You know, to the person who said I could never, well, let me show you someone who did. You know, and I included different ethnicities, different financial backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, different physical abilities.
Absolutely.
Just so that there was no room for an excuse.
Right.
Well, I don't have an education. Well, I'm not rich enough. Well, I'm handicapped, or I'm this color or that color. It doesn't matter. I've got somebody in here who's done it, who's done something.
Right.
I've got people in here who are younger than me.
Right.
That are still doing amazing things. And I think, you know, I just got tired. I hope this is not blasphemous to anybody, but I'm like, Esther is not the only person we can learn from.
Right.
She's not. I mean, she's in the book and she's great, but I think when it comes to women, everyone wants to take us to women in the Bible. And I'm like, wow, that's fine. And while they're great, there are other women out there doing amazing things
Blessed by
with
the
their
Lord.
ordinary lives. You know, these are normal people. People that get up, put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do, deciding to change a habit, to change something, and then changing lives.
What makes you feel like you are a very strong woman?
You know, the thing that makes me feel the strongest is doing things that I think are hard. Just to be honest, coming here by myself was probably one of the hardest things that I've done recently. And it may not be a hard thing to you, and it may not be a hard thing to you. But for me, coming to a country I've never been, to a person who I don't know, for an event I'm not sure about, and to a place where, I mean, is the food going to have eyeballs looking back at me with bones? I don't know.
It's so good.
So I was nervous. I was nervous about the flight. My husband's sitting there going, oh, look, you're flying over water the whole way. I'm like, I don't need to know that. It stressed me out. But I'm telling you, it's doing things that are hard that makes me feel strong. Nobody makes me feel strong like me. When I conquer fears, when I conquer bad habits, and I'm telling you, all this is with partnership with God, because without it, we can't do anything. So I'm not trying to say it's me by myself, but it's me making the decisions to agree with God for my purpose.
That's right.
To agree with Him that Philippines is where I'm supposed to be right now.
Right.
I'm waving at my kids, my husband, tell them I'll see you later, in faith that I will see them later.
Amen.
That's something that was hard for me coming over here. Finishing my first book, that was hard. It's a marathon.
Right.
But it's when you do it and when you complete it, you feel invincible.
Amen.
You're like, I'm ready to come back next year. I'm ready to do another book. Those kinds of things, because you're like, I've done it. I've done it, and I can tell myself, you did this. And you know what? Let me just encourage you with this. The first assignment that God gives you is not going to be, I need you to take over the world. The first one's going to be, can you pick up the trash? Can you put the cart back at the grocery store? Can you smile at your boss? Whatever it is, it's going to start with something small. And then as you build in doing those little bitty steps of hard things for you, then the trust, then the growth happens. And you feel stronger. That's the only person we're talking about here when you talk about feel strong. I look at you and I'm like, you're like one of the strongest people that I know. And you're like, oh my gosh, me. I'm like, yes. But that's how it is. I mean, we tend to, deflect anybody calling us strong or wanting to be called strong. And even if it's like beautiful, powerful, I'm like, whoa, that's kind of should I wear a sash? I don't know. But I mean, it's about embracing the faith that it has taken and celebrating. To me, being strong is celebrating the faith it's taken to do the hard things in my life. Having children. I mean, what else? Nothing takes more faith than having children.
That's right. Every day.
Every day.
I have a question. Yeah. This is the last question. Was that how did you own your faith? Because your grandma, your mom. How did you actually own your faith?
I would say whenever I started college was when I realized that my faith was no longer my parents' faith. That God does not have grandchildren. He only has children. I'm not getting anywhere because of my parents' faith or because of my grandparents' faith or because how they feel about God. It's going to only be because of how I feel about God and my relationship with Him. And even in the differing, flavors of what we participate in, whether, there's people that go into flags and, then people that are more somber. And it's like, my faith with God has been something that I'm a feet on the ground kind of person. I deal with reality. I don't live in the supernatural. I think life itself is supernatural. And I think being able to speak to people who don't necessarily know God is an important thing. To be able to speak in real world language, not some kind of coded Christian language that nobody can understand. And I think for me, once I was in college, when I realized nobody's going to make me go to church, nobody's going to make me pray, nobody's going to make me read my Bible, that it was my choice, and honestly, even at that point, I didn't necessarily go, well, that's it, I'm a Bible thump and pray, and you'll find me in my prayer closet all the time. No, that's when I began realizing that it wasn't their faith, it was mine. And then as I got married and as I worked through a lot of the issues from my parents' divorce, was when I realized, and then I'll tell you, having children really does, you will find out what you believe in when you have them, because in the beginning it's keeping them alive, feeding, clothing, diapering, and then once they get bigger, you're like, it's their soul that I'm actually nurturing here. The body is just a byproduct. I can feed anybody, but man, nurturing a soul and shaping a soul, that's something that takes daily dependence upon God speaking to you, upon Him shaping you, because nothing will point out your own issues like your children. You'll know exactly where you stand based on what your children are pushing you through. I said pushing, that's totally true. Putting you through and pushing you through. And I think that it's just been more of a gradual thing, kind of like vegetables in a weird way. When I was younger, I didn't like vegetables. And as I've gotten older, I've decided I'm going to try more, and I'm discovering I like a lot more. And those are things that initially taste bitter, but then the more you become accustomed to that taste, you're like, these actually make me feel really good.
Better.
And sometimes at first, building that relationship with God, you're like, oh, this is just kind of like work. But then you realize you crave it, you need it, you want it, and it actually makes you stronger, it makes you better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what does this charity Bradshaw lead a church? Or
No.
what do you?
I'm happily not a pastor.
So you just basically you're a wife right now. You're a mom.
I'm
you're
an
an
entrepreneur.
author and an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I coach authors. I coach.
Wow.
Well, I should say I coach people who want to become an author,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people have a story inside of them, and they feel like, oh, I want to write a book, or I need to write a book, or God's telling me to write a book, and it's like been a long time since school, and they don't remember how to do it. Yeah. But I actually coach people through the writing process. It's a 12-week class that I offer. And then also, and it's offered online, so you can be in the Philippines. I've got clients all over the world, actually, from Canada all the way to the UK and beyond, and things like that. And that's it's something I'm very passionate about, because what I have found when we write is that is another layer and another level of healing that God gives us. He allows us to reorganize different pains from our past and actually see His hand through things. And also, I'm not only people that are telling their story, but people who have a message or a platform. You know, maybe empowering women is your platform, and you've got things that God has deposited in you, and it's about getting that message out. And just watching, there's something so amazing about knowing that my books will be here after I'm gone. My kids, they're my first audience. Whenever I write things, I write to my kids, and of course they're for grown kids. But I sit there and I go, they will have my heart, they will have my words, they'll have my values long after I'm gone. And so will my grandkids.
Legacy.
Yes, legacy. And that's one of the things I try to get people to appreciate and step into, is putting their voice on paper. Because a lot of people, and maybe even here in the Philippines you might find this, people live in obscurity. They live in just like I blend in kind of a way. And when you say I'm going to write a book, it's like, I'm going to step out of the obscurity. And it's like, whoa, you know.
Just to be transparent is really so hard.
Absolutely. And the second step that I do is I help people actually self-publish the books. So I go through and I help with the production of the cover, and do the editing, all that kind of stuff. But I love that, because I really believe that whatever people, if it's worth writing, it's worth producing in excellence.
Let's close with this, Charity. You know, a lot of people do not really know what their purposes are. You know, it's just hard to, you know, if you don't really do, it's just hard to go and find your purpose in life. I know my purpose in life, because I just love God so much. But there are just basically people that would want to understand that in a very simple way of understanding. So please tell our audience, how do you actually understand your purpose?
Absolutely. I think there's a couple of things to think about. Number one, who does your heart burn for? That's one of the biggest things. When you're talking about purpose, and it's what do you want to do? What kind of difference do you want to make? What do you want to change? Who do you see? I often find that people have maybe a person that reflects a previous version of them. Maybe somebody who's in the struggle that they were once in. And so maybe that's you. Maybe you're thinking about, when I was younger, maybe I didn't have food, and now you feel compelled to maybe help figure out how to feed kids that maybe were in the same situation. A lot of times I think our purpose is tied into what we have been through, or what God has brought us through in some sort of way. So I always say, who does your heart burn for? And then what one step today can you do about it? And then ask yourself that question the next day, and the next day, because God's not gonna say, today I need you to leap from the Philippines over to Japan and then over to, no, He's not gonna ask you to take big giant steps. It's what's the next step, and again, it's that habit, changing a habit. Purpose is not some elusive thing. I think that we try to make it like that purpose has to be glamorous or big or dramatic. And really, to me, it's just a mindset of how you live your daily life. You can be a mom full of purpose. You can be a business owner full of purpose. You can be a minister full of purpose. You can be a grocery store bagger full of purpose. It's how you see what you're doing and who you're doing it for. So I'd encourage you, take those steps.